Hi everyone, the shy floss tuber is back. It's me, the sporty stitcher. I had a lot of people ask me at the October retreat to do videos again, so I kept thinking about it, how to do a video in October after the retreat, and it's like it'd just be easier to do it in December. So I'm back in December with my ugly puff paint cross-stitch sweatshirt, making a second year in a row, and a loser this year Santa hat, but what can you do? I know I had a lot of requests to do it in front of my tree or my TV with the Yule log on it, but I've got way too much stuff. I've got a whole year to talk to you about. So you just have to look at me and the crows that found some nice ornaments to find. And then I've got my village behind me if I ever move over. So, like I said, I'm back. And it's going to be a long one because I figured an easy way to catch everybody up from my last video is to do a complete 2019 wrap-up, going through the whole year, of course going through some haul, and the easiest way would be doing a whip parade to show everything that I haven't showed. And now I'm playing with my shoes, so let's kick them out of the way. So let's just go month by month of what happened. The first few months I'll skip, just do it quickly because I have previous videos talking about it. So in January, I finished my work project, which was the coffee chalk kit by DesignWorks. To give you a hint, don't buy it. The floss is horrible, the chart is horrible, and it makes somewhat of a interesting design. It's done though. Just don't use the floss that comes with it. In February, I finished Rachel's baby shower gift, which I'm going to be trying to add pictures while I'm talking, so hopefully that's going to be working and you'll be seeing it right now instead of all the different various clips. So Vivian's name thing was finished in February. In March, where I think the last time I talked to you, I finished the Snowman Some Assembly Required. So I don't know if I've shown this, so I'll show it now. I didn't bring the chart. Got it as a freebie at the Midwest Cross Stitches Retreat in October of last year. And I chose to do the snowflakes in blending filament. So I haven't finished it. I don't know if I'm going to finish it as a flat fold or try my luck making a pillow. I did buy the fabric though. It's a white fabric with blue and metallic silver accents, so it'll match well. So also in March was the big Salvation Army craft sale, which everybody hears me talk about. And I actually did shoot a video. So I'll insert that video in right now. Hello everyone. I am here at the Salvation Army craft sale. This is my first time ever recording on my phone, so if I'm too quiet, I'm sorry, and if I'm too loud, I'm sorry. But this is actually the second day we were here. The first day was actually way too busy to actually do anything, either taking pictures or filming. So let me figure out how to turn the camera around and I'll show you the view of the room where I'm standing in the corner. Where do I push? So here is the room. I am standing in the back corner. So here is, in the back is usually all of the fabric, and it is separated into sections. So there is cotton blends, flannel, knits, and then they even have it separated down to seasons. I am also standing near the wall of all of the patterns. I'll walk you around here. This is usually the wall that they have the checkout line, and the checkouts are up there, and the line will usually wrap around the room after the first group of people go through. I asked today, and there were 100 cards that I'll give you a tour while I talk. There was 100 tags for people, and they gave out the tags at least 2 or 3 times. Look at that beautiful pattern there, Western fashions. So this is various different patterns that you can cut. And then here are the cross-stitch magazines. The cross-stitch magazines, like the books, are in bundles of 10 or more for 50 cents. And they do allow you to go through them, but the rule is if you go through them and like a pattern, you have to buy the whole set of magazines. So we got woodworking, holiday cards, a sewing section, quilt magazines, more quilt magazines, old worker basket magazines, some cooking. Then here we are into the cross-stitch books. Just like I said, it's bundles for 50 cents. And then big cross-stitch books, big holiday craft books, and down to needlepoint and quilting. Here is the knitting area. Obviously the first day it was heaping full of things. Various needles, some of the small stuff. The most expensive thing I have found this year was only $4. I'm sure there are more though. Then we have pre-cut blocks for quilts. And this spans 3 tables. Then we have usually a bucket full of big things of fabric. Sometimes we have, excuse me. The fun thing is sometimes some people from the Bristol Renaissance Fair come to get things for their costumes. So here we have baskets and dried flowers. Over here are all the sewing notions, hoops, and floss boxes. Whole bin of zippers. Again, I'm sorry if I'm moving too fast and making people sick, but trying to keep them even. So here's some upholstery fabric. Some quilt patterns. I was looking through there earlier and actually found some cross-stitch kits or cross-stitch patterns thrown in, and I needed to stop looking because I can't pick up another craft. Those were some beautiful quilt patterns. Those were quilts. So different quilt panels. They also have a section for vintage items. So we have some doilies and table linens. Good thing about today is half price. So here we are in the button area. You can get a jar of buttons for $3 or single buttons. And here are the area where the cross-stitch patterns were. It's been pretty well picked over, but there are still some things here. Actually got a, that's the most expensive thing, but it's also a king size quilt to embroider. So various different notions, and here's some fleece. Here's the lace and the ribbon section. Then something they also always do is they get collectible things from the different Salvation Army stores that they think crafters would like. Sorry to show you the wall. So you can sometimes find a lot of neat different things here. One year we actually found a stitchable Ada vest. It was the hideous thing you've ever seen in your life. So anything that you can think of for stitchers, it will be here. I mean, they even got quilt pattern flip-flops. And the old stitchable candy jars. So I actually did find a few things on my second day. Oh, that would be fun for needle minders. For $2? I think that might be coming home with me. Look at that, you even found me shopping. Okay. This is a bit heavy for me to pick up and then film, so I've pretty much showed you all of the room. So I will wrap up this video. So as you can see, I didn't get anything except this. This big box. Got on half price day, so that means I got it for $1. Holds my scissors, and then these buttons that I tried to make into needle minders, but they're magnetic, so I didn't know how. And then drawers. This drawer I keep my pens in. I haven't filled the pictures in yet. And then it comes with a magnetic board to hold all of my needle minders. And then this drawer holds my specialty floss. And then the top just holds some things like my ever important lint roller when you have a cat. So not much this year. I say this right now that I don't know if I'll be going this year, but who are we kidding? I'll be going in 2019. So April was a big month. The first half of the month, or the first couple days, I went on a work trip up to Wausau. Also, I should mention, other than this trip, the theme of 2018 is don't take any time off of work. And I'll be showing that later. But this trip was okay because it was for work. So it was a conference for the senior center directors, it's easy for me to say, throughout the state of Wisconsin. So to network and to talk about different programmings that we do and awkwardly show how we learn Tai Chi. And I don't do Tai Chi well. But being up in Wausau, there was, of course, in Stevens Point, it is the land of every crafter's favorite catalog, Hirschner's. So I went there, and there has been some people saying that there's not much cross-stitch, but I can actually say there is a lot of cross-stitch in the store now. I don't know if it varies on what they do or the popularity, but there were a good amount of things. I guess I'll be showing that in haul. Also up in Wausau was a very interesting L&S, the Needle Workshop. There are two easy things to say about it. Number one, it is very loved by all of these stitchers around the area because it was very busy with people stitching and having fun. But the other side of the coin is it was a fire hazard, which I was glad to get out alive. I shouldn't have joked about that. And so on the way home, of course, I geocached on the way home. And in Wisconsin Rapids, there is a quilt store that I just had to stop at. And if you quilt, everybody needs to go to the Cotton Thimble in Wisconsin Rapids. It is a gorgeous quilt store and huge. It was immaculate. So since I saw this quilt store, I then looked up in Google to see the closest cross-stitching store, because why not? If there's a nice quilt store like that, there should be something like that. And sure enough, there was something on Google Maps that was tagged as cross-stitching store. I won't share its name because, number one, I forgot, and number two, it's not nice to talk things weird. But it was a very goofy store. It had absolutely no cross-stitching in it. There was an alpaca in a diaper, but no cross-stitching. What they said they were, when I, kind of mentioned it to a staff member, you're tagged as cross-stitch, why you should probably go in there and change that because there's no cross-stitching in here. And she honestly looked at me and says, "We are a Priscilla and Chelsea supplier." What does that mean? So they sell old windows, they sell shutters, they sell barnwood, anything that Priscilla and Chelsea finish on, but no cross-stitching. So I didn't get much. And, of course, in April is the retreat that I went to in La Crosse. It was held at the Stony Creek. If I can insert a video while I'm talking, you'll be seeing a picture of the finishes. And if not, I'll pause right now and show it. But it was a nice, small, quiet retreat. A lot of fabulous finishes. The retreat is run by the local embroidery guild. So a lot of the finishes that you see on the table was a class project. And also, I fell in love with somebody's project. So I'll show that right now. Isn't he pretty? So, a few things that we did get at the retreat. We got this project bag. The theme was ladybugs. It's currently holding my bell pull. And of course, we got a name tag. And we got a few other things. We had gotten a little charm that we can make into a needle minder, and then Kelly made us some floss holders. And I don't have those to show, because the reason I don't have that to show is because we had the disaster of disasters for retreats. On Saturday, we were stitching throughout the day, having a good time, and the theme at our table where we were sitting was somebody would sit there and then breathe and then go, "I smell something hot and sweet." But it would only last one breath, and then we would keep on going. We'd try to, everybody around there would try to sniff. Nothing. But it was just random moments of the afternoon. So, at 5 o'clock on the dot, I think it was on the dot, the fire alarm goes off. But right before the fire alarm goes off, we were right next to the pool area. There was a little kid running right as the alarm sounded within a few seconds. So at our section of the table, everybody said that kid pulled the alarm. So we got up, left everything, went outside, and looked up, and there was smoke coming from the roof. Like I said, hopefully I'll be entering pictures for you can see. So we went across and walked around the hotel and saw a poor dog that was panicking in his room. Well, not really panicking, but just concerned. So we helped rescue him and stood there and watched all these different fire departments come by and making jokes and, trying to make it as best as we could. So, of course the manager starts coming around, and obviously her job is to make things not seem as bad as they were. And so she comes up to us and says, "Oh, it's not a very bad fire. It'll be just a couple minutes and you'll be out and, be right back into where you need to go and stitch." So we thought that optimistic. It's like, oh yeah, if the manager says it's going to be fine, it would be fine. So let's walk down to Olive Garden and eat. Which was interesting because we were in various shades of dressing as a retreat. Some people were in pajamas, even though that one lady says she was not in pajamas. She was in a leisure clothing because she had a bra on. Some had slippers on. Some had no shoes. We were a bunch of interesting people. And it was also prom night in the La Crosse area, so here is our great big group of stitchers sitting there eating right next to a bunch of girls in their fancy prom dresses. And so we walked back, and then reality hit. The fire trucks were still there. It was, you could tell it was a worse fire than it was. So, a little backstory. I forgot to well, I'll keep mentioning it later. So I guess I'll mention it now. I'm trying to do this ad lib. Anyway, we come to find out the fire was right above the stitching room. And it was a gas fireplace that they had constructed and finished that week. So our retreat started it was Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. They finished this indoor fireplace on Wednesday, and they never tested it. The group that was using the room above us that evening was a cost cutters Christmas party in April, because as my cousin will tell you, hairdressers do not celebrate Christmas in December. So, with a Christmas party, they wanted to have the fireplace on. That's where the hot and sweet smell came from. It was the gas. There was way too much gas pumping in. One of the other stitchers walked up to take a break in her room and came back and said when she saw that fire, she said, "That's not a normal fire." But when she told the maintenance man or the staff, they said, "Oh, it's probably fine." It wasn't. So that fire ended up getting the chimney too hot and got the roof too hot, which started on fire, which was right above our stitching room. So we were told, leading to believe when we went for supper, that we would be able to get our stitching stuff back. And getting back to the hotel after supper, it was clear we were not going to get our stuff. So it becomes a panic of the stuff that's in there. My purse was down there. Some people's phones were down there. Obviously the one lady's shoes were down there. So the firemen were letting some people into the hotel to get their stuff with an escort, basically on the other side of the hotel. So they heard our plight and said that they would go down and rescue purses and electronics and things that can be saved. So the first group comes up. It's somebody's stitching bag with all of her floss and her purse, so she was lucky and got that back. And so they made a second trip. Luckily my purse was in that second trip. But the funny thing is, since you got to have funny humor and everything, this retreat was shortly after the retreat in the Stitchville retreat in Minnesota at the Oak Ridge Conference Center that the Midwest group goes also. And they had the class project from Jeanette Douglas. So my purse was the only purse that the man brought up. Number one, it's pitch dark and smoky down there. Number two, he's a man. Sorry, Gerald, and others. But especially when it's dark and smoky and a fire, you don't know what you're pulling. It's a bag. So it's somebody's project bag. So, to be nice and kosher, they would look through it and say, is this Jessica? Yes, okay, there you go. So he opened up the project bag and goes, is Jeanette Douglas here? So of course we had to laugh at that. So one thing that we were noticing when the firemen would get close to the building, and when this one fireman that got the bags came back, he was very winded, and also too when the other firemen got close to the building, an alarm on their packs would go off. So come to find out after, when I got back, talking to a senior at our senior center about the retreat, he is a retired EMT. I was explaining to him about this alarm, and I learned that it was a CO2, so the carbon monoxide alarm. And when we were getting our stuff back, the higher up fireman comes up to this gentleman who was having a very hard time catching his breath of, what is your reading? And he looks at it and goes 120. And the higher up fireman kind of gives a giggle and said, sorry, there's no more bags being rescued. When I told that story to this EMT, he kind of quickly gave a, ugh. And the reason is they usually pull people out of buildings when it reads 5. So it was a very interesting fire. So on Sunday and Monday, that night obviously was a horrible night sleeping. Luckily we were not able to get a room. So of course before the retreat that didn't seem very lucky because we've got to go to a different hotel each night. But in hindsight it was very lucky. There was a not a senior like the seniors that I care for, but a senior bowling tournament, so people in their 50s. And so there was a bowling tournament in La Crosse, the Cost Cutters Christmas party, and we were told it was a wedding, but we learned later that it was a frat party. And when it was a frat party. So we weren't able to get rooms in where we had the retreat, so we were a block away at the Holiday Inn. It was a horrible night's sleep. I kept dreaming that I was being trapped in one of my projects, that I was sewn into the project and I had to watch all these people's stuff being destroyed, including Benedict Cumberbatch. Oh. But anyway, we come back on Sunday being told that we maybe were able to get our stuff back. So we get there early that morning to see what we could do, and learn that the ceiling collapsed into the stitching room. So that was a fun moment. So we just, mainly talked about what we can do, and, we went people went their merry way. And my mom and I's plan that, because my mother went with me, and our plan was when the retreat was going to end on Sunday, we were going to geocache our way home anyway. Well, I was going to geocache and she was going to take pictures. And so we just got started earlier. We went more north into Minnesota than we were planning on. We went all the way down to we stayed the night in Iowa and then made our way home on Monday. So then on Monday, or late on Monday when we got home, we found out that on Tuesday we were going to be let into the stitching room. So that meant that we got home late on Monday too. So like 8 o'clock. But then again, I work with seniors. So I know it's not late for many people, but when you've been driving all day, it's late. And then we learned that the next day at 10 o'clock in the morning, 3 hours away, we were going to be going through the stitching room. So mainly, long story short, my mom and I should not have unplugged and, taken this nice trip. But it was a very nice trip, but then I had to quickly get up on Tuesday and drive 3.5 hours or 2.5 hours straight nonstop to pick up her stuff. And that was an interesting story too. I hope you've got your stitching because this is a very long story. It turns out on Monday night, I don't know if they had a flare-up or if something happened, but the ceiling collapsed again into the stitching room that we were promised in. So the staff at the hotel knew that they were not going to be meeting very happy stitchers to tell them that they cannot go in the room again. So their solution was to go table by table and put everything in a box. So again, if I can magically I'll be showing this right now. And when I mean they put everything in a box, they put everything. So the food that we were snacking on, every table had candies to match the ladybug theme, some red and black candies. Those were thrown in the box. A box of Stony Creek complimentary pens and papers were thrown into a box. And just, every which way things were thrown in. Our table suffered the most, our section of the room suffered the most damage. And so our boxes were just disgusting with ceiling tile and ugh. So luckily, most of everybody's stuff was safe. I mean, there were some things that were beyond repair and, some things that were lost. So I guess I'll just show my damage. The only things I did lose were a needle minder that I had won. And I was very sad about that needle minder because as I shared with my ATC for Jen Upton's, I have a weird obsession with a cartoon each morning. Instead of watching the silly Good Morning America, I watched that cartoon. And it was a needle minder that kind of matched that cartoon. So I was very sad to lose that one. I also lost ATC I was working on. And I lost the project bag from Minnesota. But one good thing is, I get to that later. So the one that I did save that I have been working on is the bell pull. The only damage that this suffered was a little rust stain from a needle, this bleeding here from the over-dyed threads, and there's some red bleeding down here, but it got covered up by stitching. Also, I don't know if you'll be able to tell because a lot of people can't. Here in the blue and in the pink here are some remnants of ceiling tile. And especially like right here, maybe, I don't know. And it's one of those things that I could have scrubbed more, or I didn't really want to soak it again because it bled, the browns bled. So I kind of left it in as a memory. And since I'm just about done with it, my plan is, my lofty plan which probably amount to nothing, is when I finish the back into a bell pull. I'm going to finish that section, which would be this section here, and the bottom section I'll show you later. I'll finish that with a special fabric and then tell the story of why this suffered some damage of bleeding and stuff, and maybe that will make the judges a little bit okay with the bleeding of stuff. But the one I am most concerned about, apprehensive about, is the bell pull. Not the bell pull, the table runner that I have been working on. The stretcher bars that it was on, this was ended up being on the floor. It had fallen on the floor, and that's where most of the water was. So the wood warped within the stretcher bars. Both the bars that you put your fabric on, and then also the bars holding it. And again, if I'm can show a picture, I'll show it, or else I'll show it right here of how tight the project was when I found it. So one good thing, if I ever do work on this again, is I can show you where I was on everything. I was pretty far along. I want to say I was halfway. But my concern is with the water. I don't know if you'll be able to see this. This side, the staples rusted. And it rusted many wraps of the fabric. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 wraps that you can visibly see. Well, I can visibly see because I know how the fabric should look. But you have these rust stains from the staple. And then this side, I don't know if it will be able to see or if it's just me again. We've got more rust stains, and also the varnish from the wood went on this side. Part of me just wants to say, oh well, I lost it, but part of me wants to finish it. I was talking to my former home ec teacher, and she always talks to me about my stitching, because as she says, if I was a normal, any middle schooler is a horrible middle schooler, but there are times that she wanted me to teach the class because I knew more about hand sewing and artful sewing than she did. So we were talking about this, and she has offered her services as a seamstress, a quilter, on piecing this together. So just finishing this, and hopefully this would have been within the way that the instructions had you finish it, which was, I had the pattern here somewhere. Anyway, it was a fancy stitch that would have these together. So instead of doing that, we would piece other things around it, matching fabric. So she doesn't want me to give it up. I don't want to give up. But yet, I don't know. I don't really want to get it wet again to hopefully, to possibly get rid of the rust stains. So we'll see. But especially this time of year, it's really calling to me to work on. So, I was able to save a bird. I was doing this as an ATC, and it was up on the save table, and this was one of the saves. I don't know why I had that in my pile. But there were some nice, generous donations that were given to us. One was, and I hope we can mention these. If not, surprise. And I hope I'm not going to get in too much trouble. But Karen at So Much to Love gave us all a free project bag. So I picked this one with the gnomes and the cat in the garden. So I am sad I lost my Midwest spool cool bag, but this is pretty cool too. I had tried to wash it. I had a lot of ceiling tile on, and I talked to Joan over the waves and stuff, and she said, give it a try to hand washing it, and it didn't look the same after I washed it, so I just called it a loss. So that taught me a lesson, and of stitching as much, well, not as much as I can, but stitching a lot to have fun. Because when we were coming home on that Sunday and Monday, we were, of course, talking about the retreat. And both my mom and I mentioned that we weren't sad that we lost the finish, the prospect of these finishes, but we lost the fun of stitching them. I mean, this one is a very, like we said, it was the fun of stitching each project. So I did participate in a little bit of Stitch Mania. I did not do 18 starts in 18 days. I did a weekly start, and I will show more of those in finishes later and the Whip Parade. And of course in June. The main thing about June was 2 secret stitches. And I don't know the exact dates that they were due, but they were in my finished pictures for mid-June, so I'll talk about them here. The first one is the British Secret Santa group that I accidentally joined in on. I was the only American in the group, so that meant I had to pay a lot of money, and my exchange partner had to pay a lot of money to send me things. So I ended up stitching a Joan Elliott flower magnet, and I gave her some other things, but I don't have a picture of them. So here it is. The unfortunate thing is, according to the leader of the group, her and this person were good friends. I don't remember the person's name, but she completely disappeared off all social medias. So hopefully you're doing all right if you end up watching this video, and hopefully you enjoy the magnet. But my gift came from Julie, and with this awesome card. There's actually some Highland cows like this in Lake Geneva that we sometimes go and visit and take pictures of. So he is very cute. Did I say her name was Julie? Well, her name is Julie. And she must have looked through me. Ugh. She must have looked through my Instagram and Facebook, because she noticed that I am a bookmark collector. So a lot of these things that she gave me were book related. She also gave me like these gummy bear pigs, but they didn't last very long. But there was this neat postcard about I opened a book. I opened a book, and in I strode. Now nobody can find me. I've left my chair, my house, my road, my town, and my world behind me. I am wearing the cloak, I've slipped on the ring, I've swallowed the magic potion, I've fought with a dragon, and dined with a king, and dived in a bottomless ocean. I opened a book and made some friends, I shared their tears and laughter, and followed their road with its bumps and bends, to happily ever after. I finished my book, and out I came, the cloak can no longer hide me, my chair and my house are just the same, but I have my book inside me. It's a very nice poem. She also gave me one of the free kits from the World of Cross Stitching, a bookmark of the Country Diary of an Edwardian Lady. And, of course, she stitched me a project, and it was this summer bookmark from Lizzie Kate. So thank you very much, Julie. They're very nice. And also in June was the Midwest Cross Stitch Group's exchange. My partner was Bub Mai, or Angie. And of course, as a fellow Snoopy collector, or former Snoopy collector, to a current Snoopy collector, this was the easiest exchange that I've ever been through because I knew exactly what to stitch her as soon as I saw who it was. I tried my hand at a unique finish. Again, hopefully you're seeing the picture as I'm talking about it, or else somewhere where I sliced it in. But I tried my unique hand at my hand at unique finishing with this sparkly wreath that I found at Walmart. I thought she could put it on the door to her office in her classroom or somewhere. And also too, the stitching was just tied on, so if she didn't like that gaudy wreath, she could take it off. And of course I gave her some other things that were part of the exchange, but I forgot what they were. And my exchange came from Ginger Gerald, and it was this biscornu of an original design he did. So with the Statue of Liberty on this side, and then E Pluribus, whatever it is, on that side, with some nice road stitches. And so I put that out for both the 4th of July this year and Veterans Day. So thank you. And with the exchange, he got me the Crossed Wing Collection biscornu and scissor fob, and a nice pair of scissors to go with it. Thank you. A Silver Creek Samplers. It has a name, I know it is. Northwind. But it's the poem about what the robin is going to do in the beginning of fall. Thank you. And he also knitted me some washcloths. True confession at this moment, these are pointless. Not that they are fabulously knitted washcloths, but I never use these. My collection of given washcloths is now up to 8 because I can't use these. They're done so nicely, and I go to pull them out of the drawer, and I can't see myself using these to wash dirty dishes with. So they are in my collection of other finished washcloths that will never see a dish. So thank you, Gerald. In July, I started a little bit of chaos at work. A local church came in to offer to help someone with a home improvement, and they kind of got looking around in our building, and I said our building needed to be painted, so they offered to paint. And that caused a lot of chaos between us at the senior center and everybody who uses the building. So to cool off a little bit and to get through all of the construction at the building, I got into a bad habit of going to estate sales. Somewhat bad and somewhat fun, because it combines the both of best world. It's fun because it combines going to open houses to look at houses that you'll never buy, and going to thrift stores, rummage sales, and looking at stuff that you'll never buy. So I do want to mention the very first one we went to, and because of that I got a lot of bookmarks for my bookmark collection. This, I'll start going through them while I'm talking. This estate sale was from a former Catholic staff of some point. It was, I believe she was a nun at one point and then had to either fell in love or had an accident and had to leave the nunhood, the sisterhood. Sorry, Angie, I'm probably getting it wrong. So a lot of these are her collection of ordination cards. And what ordination cards are cards to celebrate when a priest does his first sermon. So here's one. This is in remembrance of my first solemn Mass at St. Jude's Church in Beloit, Wisconsin, September 30th, 1945. Some of these date back to 1920s. So I'm sure the paper conservators of library science are cringing right now to see me touching these with bare hands. But so getting back to this, he was ordained a priest September 29th, 1945. James R. Johnson. Please pray for me. And then it has other words up here. Bless, O Lord, my parents and brothers, relatives and friends, and all those living and dead who have in any way helped me to thy altar. But a lot of these are works of art within themselves. This is for a retreat in 46. This was just a random Christmas one. Here's for Louis Brenton. He got ordained in May of 49. This is just paper clipping. This is just a prayer card. This one is for Harry Daly, and he was ordained in 37. And just some random Catholic bookmarks. A prayer for St. Anthony card. Start going through these quick. Okay. The main one that I wanted to show you is this Our Lady of the Night. And it is for the ordained, for Louis Brenton again, for his ordination. But this in itself, I would love it to be made into a cross-stitch pattern. Because I think it is just gorgeous. With Mary holding Jesus there. But the artwork in that bookmark or ordination card or whatever you call it is just gorgeous. Standing on the earth. That was the main highlight. And the good thing about these is they were all free. They were in a box of books that were marked free. I walked up to the ladies that were running it and I say, I collect bookmarks with only a stipulation that they're free. Can I have these for free? And they said, were they from the box from free? And I go, yeah, yep, go ahead. Yay. So more about estate sales in a little bit. That was a horrible Chris Farley moment right there. Okay, anyway, into August. I jumped on the arbitrary August wheel and worked on various different things each night. It did help get me in the mood to work on various different things. And a lot of various different things that I haven't touched in a really, really long time. And some things that just needed a few stitches and something like this. This was September from the Lizzie Kate. All I needed to do was finish the books and the chalkboard. Oh, excuse me. And as you can tell, it is the same ones that Pam worked on, minus the button right now. But I am not doing the whole year. I'll show you my progress right now. Many years ago, I went down and picked out the ones that I wanted to work on. So this one is from the little bits, flippets. And then we've got the A Year with a Charm flippets. And the stamp flippets. And I think those are the only 3 that I picked from. So they're all a various different collection of those. I mainly just wanted to pick the ones that I thought were nice and the ones that I wanted. So here's plenty evidence of, starting things, and you could get things done lots easier if you just work on them. But there's the beginning of March. And he'll look like this. I have previously finished January minus the buttons. He was a stamp up. November, he was a stamp up. Oop, cat hair. And February, which was the little bits. And of course all these need buttons. So eventually they will all get finished, and they will all get finished at the same time. Okay, do that later. So that was one finish. Also in August, I needed to do a lot of finishing for the fair. And so let's get into the fair. I did finish everything early, like I said. Anyway, I finished it early. I might as well just go through it. So the first one that got judged was the Joan Elliott Happy Halloween, or Happy Hauntings. And some of you may remember I was working on this some of the time last year at the Midwest Cross Stitchers Retreat, and I would show progress at different points. But I just did a nice stand-up Ivana Twisted Stitcher tutorial. I used a neat sparkly ribbon on the background, and I was told that this fabric glowed in the dark with the spider webs, but I've never seen it. I mean, in the videos, the French knots do not look the best, but they look fine in real life, but they look wonky and weird in the picture. But nice happy Halloween scene. And that got a blue ribbon. So hooray for me. The other ornaments that I just told you. The other project that I turned in were the ornaments. And I did the 12 Days of Christmas. I finished them various different times throughout the year. I finished like 10 in March or something, but I just chose to show you them all now. I chose to finish them with the hook in it. So there's one. He was stitched many, 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 many years ago. Because again, if you just sit there and do it, then it'll get done. But I blame that man over there that's taking a nap. Which is my cat. Don't get excited, people. Whenever I start to stitch, it seems like it's his job to interrupt me. 4 birds. Now, luckily, the good thing about it is you only have to take 3 to the fair. So something like this, that the finishing was not the best, it got to stay home. And I took a picture of them all together, and the judge said that that's something that swayed her in the coming up. And another fun fact, this is this project here, these 12 ornaments, is the only reason I bought my Cricut for. I mean, I've found other things to do with my Cricut, but I needed to cut circles perfectly, so that's why I got the Cricut machine. For $200 just to finish 12 ornaments. Lord the Ace. And finally the drummer. So 3 of these went to the fair. I can't remember which 3. Doesn't really matter. You saw them all. The 3 that looked the best. And it got a blue ribbon. So it goes down to grand champion judging. And the 2 that were down for the grand champion ribbon was this and this. So, with me stitching both of these projects, I got my first grand champion ribbon. It's not the most exciting fair. It's not the state fair or a fair with a lot of competition. I mean, there is a lot of competition. Don't get me wrong, but it's always good to win a grand champion, your first grand champion. And now I do. So now I have a big purple ribbon to add into my desk drawer of ribbons that I never see again. So now to the theme of the year of don't take time off of work. The first day of the fair, which was my mom's photography and my cookies and pie. I thought I'd branch out and do more than just cross stitching, so I tried my hand at baking. So I wanted to go back and forth between the photography building and the home ec building. And it was a very, very rainy late August and beginning of September. So rainy that the last few days of the fair were pretty much abysmal for people coming because it was so rainy and muddy and people were getting stuck and it was disgusting this year. But it was a dry day that Wednesday, but yet, grass is still hard. And I went to go check on my cookies to see what the process was for the judging, and went to go back to see how my mom's pictures were going because I know one of her categories was coming up. So I go to walk between the buildings and I fall hard. And it was so interesting of a fall because by the time I got back to the photography building, my knee cap had swollen like the size of a grapefruit. It was very weird and scary. And I have previously had surgery on that knee for an interesting condition that I don't really want to get too involved in. But long story short is with that surgery, I have concrete in that knee. So it made me very, very nervous. And so that required a trip to the emergency room because it swelled so very fast. And I'm already nervous about that knee to begin with. So, another lesson learned, don't take time off of work because then you fall and hurt yourself. So also in August, before the fair, don't have these in order, was the Epic estate sale of epic proportions. Obviously this is going to be my longest video ever. So we had been to an estate sale on Friday because of our bad habit of going to estate sales on Friday afternoon. And to say it was disappointing was an understatement. It was essentially a hoarder's house. So in a sense, it wasn't a house I wouldn't buy or things I wouldn't buy. So we were kind of disappointed that was our weekly estate sale that we went to. So I got searching online and I found a very, very, very dangerous website of estatesales.net. And you can enter your zip code and find estate sales that are near you. And so I did that on that Friday night and got searching and just, searched the ones local to me, and then I searched the ones, close to me that were in driving distance. And there was one that I wasn't going to click on, but the title caught my eye because it said, it had like immaculate furniture and something else, and then lifelong crafter. So I was like, lifelong crafter, that could be an interesting one. Excuse me again. So I click on that one, and I'm searching, looking through the different, it was very nice furniture. And the very first thing I see is a finished shepherd's bush on a wall. She cross-stitched. I'm not a shepherd's bush fan, so, if it's shepherd's, a few shepherd's bush patterns, that's something. But, if I see something, I'll look. So then I get to the craft room, and the caption on the video, or on the picture, was, "Too much to photograph and we don't know what it is," or something like that. And the only picture that it had was a Rubbermaid box with a Mirabilia pattern in the front. And so we make the trek down there, and it did not hurt that it was half price day either. And to say it was the dream of all dreams of a cross-stitcher is an understatement. It was like walking into a secondary L&S, local stitch shop. This interesting lady, collected and stitched and was very happy with her stash. Little backstory, her name is Kim, because I found that out later, anyway, I bought a lot of stuff and had a fight with the local picker that always drives us nuts at the Salvation Army craft sale. She was there, so I had a lot of fun with her. And I was going to start clicking a pen. So we had a lot of fun. While I'm talking about this, yes, Becky, your stuff is still here, and yes, I need to mail it to you, and no, it will not be any charge. So, I was doing an Instagram live thing. Anyway, we got our stuff, go up to the checkout desk. They obviously have to go through a lot of stuff because we got a lot of stuff. And we got talking, and they were very interested in what I was doing by doing the Instagram live. I know it was very choppy and probably caused a lot of motion sickness for anybody who jumped in. But, so they were interested, and so I just casually mentioned about, all the people that are on Instagram, what I do with my local stitching group, and also the Midwest Cross Stitchers group. And I just happened to say, if the family wants to do something with it that will go to local stitchers, just let them know about me. And that the estate sale ended at 3 o'clock, and by 8 o'clock that night, I got a phone call from Kim's mother. And she was more than happy to have all of this to go to local stitchers, because their plans at the moment was to give it to Goodwill, because the amount of it was just too much for them. They were going to try to sell the finished pieces, but they had no clue what to do with all of the kits and all of the patterns and all of the fabric and all of the floss and all of the tchotchkes of buttons and pattern holders and everything you can imagine. So we went down there and picked up a whole carload of stuff. A lot of you have heard about this story from a few of them, because part of Kim's thing, and this is why another reason I wanted to come back, because looking through my subscriber list, come to find out Miss Kim was a subscriber to me. And why it's surprising is because, as you see, I don't have very many subscribers. So to know that she was down there sick and ended up passing away, and was one of my very few people that watch my videos, it did touch me. But also in her boxes, I mean, she was organized beyond organized. Her collections of Shepherd's Bush were down by release date and release numbers. The same with her Just Nan patterns. If she bought the everything together at the same store, a lot of it was a Needle and Eye in Rockford, but she went all over, bought all over the United States. She would have the fabric with it. She would staple the beads together, and she would add some of the floss together. And if she had to buy the beads a secondary place, then in the box of tchotchkes, and if you don't know what tchotchkes are, it's a Midwest term for crap. So, her box would be organized by Mill Hill bead numbers. But there was one certain section in her boxes that was blank. Absolutely no markings. And, I mean, she had it, this box that I'm talking about, she had it down, Lizzie Kate. It was like a file folder section. So a Lizzie Kate folder, a Bent Creek folder, which I mistakenly said something to the picker and she took all of them. Everything. But one section had no markings on it at all. And then I kind of noticed it at the estate sale, didn't say anything, didn't make the connection. And then till I got home is when I made the connection. In this section are everything that you can, every single piece in that section was either destined for somebody on Flosstube or was to be stitched while watching somebody on Flosstube. So you might have seen that there was a Michael Powell, a big, huge Michael Powell kit that was either destined or to be stitched while watching Michelle. A lot of different patriotic things and cat things that were for Pam and Steph. A very, very expensive sampler set that I think was for Emily C. But when one of our local stitchers saw that, she offered to pay oodles of money for that. So I imagine that was very expensive because I had no clue what it was. But it was kind of touching to know that she had this section for everybody, and almost everything except that sampler kit that I just mentioned did go to their intended recipients. And I'm not crying, I'm just getting tired of talking. And also too, I have been still in contact with Kim's mother. And so just a quick little plug, if you've picked up anything from me, either at the, if you're one of the local stitchers, just let me have a picture, or if you've got something off the freebie table at the last retreat, give me a picture, because she wants to see the things finished. She said she didn't, doesn't care about the money. All she does is that was the only thing her daughter liked, was to stitch, and it was mainly the only thing that they had to talk about. So she wants to still have the connection and wants to see these things finished and see other people finish it. So if you remember, please tag me at Sporty Stitcher on Instagram when you finish them. So, also in August, this is going to be a very exciting cross-stitching extravaganza. And also in August, I got another crow for my dining room. He was at Michael's. He was very, very highly discounted on sale because he broke a toe and he has a broken wing. But he sits on top of my corner cabinet with his toe and wings hidden, so he peers down on everybody. But here is a new crow to join these two guys. Isn't that exciting? But I showed you the bookmark, so I might as well show you the new crow. And also there at Michael's, I did not get it, but they also, I kind of had a laugh. They had this big, huge frog, and I was kind of wondering if it was supposed to be a Halloween scare piece for cross-stitchers. If it is, very good job, Michael's. So, now let's finally get to September. Just think, it's over an hour and we're not even at WIPs yet. I might have to break these up into multiple videos. It was a somewhat very boring month recovering with my knee injury. But the exchange for the next exchange group for the Midwest Cross Stitchers happened, and I joined in on the Christmas group. Mine was a double-sided ornament, which it was a Doreen, I think it was Doreen Jones. It had pretty much the exact same motif on the back, but just flipped in reverse. So it was double-sided. And mine was to Melanie Smith, and she's also on Flosstube, but I forgot her channel. A lot of you probably know her. And also two were other things that I gave her. And speaking of a lot of you know her, I got mine back from Kathy from Milwaukee area. And just a little plug for you guys in the Milwaukee area. There is no need that you guys, all of you guys, Lost and Floss and everything. It's just an hour drive. I used to live in Milwaukee all the time. We have people making an hour and a half drive from Chicago, so we need representatives from Milwaukee. I need to be not the only Packer fan. But she stitched me this, which is amazingly immaculate. Makes my little double-sided ornament look like a puny thing, so sorry, Melanie. But she stitched it over 40 count. I am imagining it is probably a Blackbird Designs. So thank you very, 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 very much, Kathy. And her package also was immaculate. Again, sorry, Melanie. She gave me 3 pieces of fabric. One is being currently stitched on. She completed my Silver Creek Samplers wish list. So, this lady, Olivia something, but mainly with the fall leaves. And then no spring lasts forever, and no winter lasts forever, no spring skips its turn. And then she helped my mother and I's crossed wing collection. So this is number 14, the cardinals and the red berries. Oops. And then the mourning doves. You know, this might have come from Gerald. Anyway, it's either from Kathy or Gerald. So thank you to either one of you. That's number 45. And then she also included this window cornice of mockingbirds. So now on to October, an hour in. Again, I think I'm going to have to break this up into 2 videos because I'm not a very interesting person to listen to for 2 hours. So of course, the only thing, all the exciting thing within October is the retreat. Of course, it was busy with the retreat. And of course, later on, I will tell you that reason of why you never take time off in 2018 for vacation from work. So I left on Wednesday night because I was one of the ones that was going to arrive on Thursday. I left on Wednesday to geocache my way up. And so I stayed halfway up in La Crosse. I didn't get too many geocaches on Wednesday night because it was dark. But one thing that was interesting is I met 3 Amish buggies on my way up. We, in our area, most of our Amish are, get rides from everyone. But in the area that I like to drive on Highway 14, there's a whole section where all the families live together. So I passed 3 of those, and it was kind of neat. I've never seen that. So it was kind of neat to see the various different types of buggies that they had. Thursday, I started my way up again, got a lot of geocaches, and then I made the mistake of stopping at a fabulous, fantastic, nerd-filled, even just normal person-filled remembrance place called Lark Toys. It was it had a toy store in it, but it was also a museum of toys, and it was fabulous. The neat thing that they did, they would have these different rooms set up for different sets of toys. They had, of course, as a nerd, they had a TARDIS with all of the Doctor Who toys. They had like a little Western one. They also had a little board game section. But the neat thing that they did is they had toys that ranged from something my grandmother or even her mother would play with, all the way down to something someone younger than me would play with. So you could sit there and go, oh, my mom had that and I had that. It was very neat. And within this interesting store was a handcrafted wooden carousel. And it had all these different animals on it, and all were hand carved. Again, hopefully you're seeing pictures while I'm talking. If not, you're just looking at me. But one neat thing, as a person who works with senior citizens all the time, is one of the promotions that they do there is nonagerian. So if you're over 90 and you ride the carousel in any shape or form, if you sit on one that moves up and down, or even just sits in the one of the chairs, you get your name on the wall and you get a little certificate. So of course, now my goal is to get my grandmother up there. That could be fun. Then of course they had the toy store, but their neat thing about the toy store was it wasn't things that you could find at a store, like Barbies and stuff. It was all, either handcrafted or obscure toys that you don't see everywhere. So also within the store they have information about the Eagle Museum that was in the next town, which would be Wabasha, Minnesota. And of course I had to go see that. So I went and saw that on the wrong day. I did not know this. Everybody in Minnesota knew this because it's a Minnesota holiday, but something like a teachers' conference thing, and a lot of people, it's like a fall break. And so they were also having a fall festival in Wabasha near the museum, so it was full of kids and full of people. And so I took a quick walk around and saw some things and met the eagles that are currently there, but so then I headed back on the road to up the retreat. It was a great retreat. There was no fire. Fantastic time. Had a fantastic table. Met a lot of fantastic people. Yeah, just a great time. So, I guess I'll just start showing you things. One of the fantastic people at the table, not that everybody isn't fantastic. But Carol, who is Stitch a Latte on Instagram, and I feel sorry for her because she is a Packer and Brewer fan down in Chicago. So imagine her dedication to sports. But she made me these awesome project bags. So there's the Packers, the Brewers, and then the Badgers, which is currently being used for a project. So we'll put that over here for the whip parade, which will be a second video. And when I got these from Carol, I mentioned to her I am not a person who gives hugs, and I don't cry very much, and I almost cried, and I did give her a hug. So I did make her cry. So sorry, Carol. I guess into the exchanges. The first one was the one that you stitch. Of course, I don't have it. Hopefully I'll be showing a picture. But if not, here is where I got it from. It is this Joan Elliott, which is half cut off. But it is a moon from Cross Stitch Crazy. And since I am the only Joan Elliott fan there, well, I'm sure there is, mine stuck out like a sore thumb because everything is done primitive, and here's mine bright yellow, but I'm hopefully the lady who got it likes it. And I got mine from Dory. Hello, Dory, if you're watching, with her cute card. Excuse me. And it was this squirrel from Kathy Barrick with Thy Needle and Thread. I think it's right. Or Brenda Gervais, or it's with Thy Needle and Thread. Like I said, I stitched Joan Elliott, so. But this will definitely go well in my decor because I have a small section of squirrels to remember my grandfather, because he liked to sit there every afternoon and try to tame the squirrels in his neighborhood. So the next night was the stitching gift exchange, so you could fill a bag with different random stuff. Mine was very random. It had various different things. They had apple butter from our local apple place, and needle minders that I made, and various different things. But I got mine from Laura Love, or Laura, sorry, didn't mean to mention your last name. And it is 2 Lizzie Kates, the sleds, The Night Before Christmas snippet, and Sled Dudes snippet. And she also got me a whole bunch of sleds to put them on. So thank you, Laura. So if that wasn't enough, I was one of the very lucky recipients to win a raffle. And it is amazing to me because I only put in $5 because I am a millennial and do not carry cash. So I had to go to the ATM, and I didn't want to pay too much to get that much money. Or maybe it was $20. $20 because I have 5 tickets. And anyway, because I was destined to have this. I mean, this needed to come home with me. And it did. This was the project bag from Diddly Daddle with a little crow on the zipper pull. And the little notions bag. And then the needle minder with the crow. And then the lanterns on the back. But who cares about the lanterns? It's a crow. So, this will gladly join my crow collection. And of course I'll use the project bag. So, now on to why you do not take vacations in 2018. On Sunday, I was with everybody, reminiscing, this is sad we're leaving, having lunch with everybody, being my shy self, not talking to anybody very much. But enjoying watching everybody else, hug and kiss and cry. And so go outside, go pack up my stuff, go to get in my car. It did. My car died over the weekend. And I mean it died. There was no saving the battery. I had accidentally, previously in the summer, or actually right before we went to the retreat in April, accidentally drained the battery because I left my phone charging while we got out. And you don't charge your phone with just the battery. And I learned that lesson, and then it turns out that once it gets cold, when a battery has already died, it will die again, and it will completely die. So it was to the point of death that if I stopped the car to get gas and tried to start the car again, it would not start. And I was already at a quarter of a tank left, and I needed to get home to my little town in Wisconsin, many, many hours away, and I needed gas. So I needed to find an emergency car repair and spend a lot of money to get a battery, somewhat hoping that I could spend the night that night and then geocache my way home the next day, but I made it home. So now on to November. This is a very long video. The only really exciting thing in November, other than working on various different things and celebrating my birthday and Thanksgiving, was I finished my brewer start at the Midwest Cross Stitchers Retreat. I call it that because Carol and I watched the brewer game while I mainly stitched on this because it was easy. But it was from Kim's stash. It came with, she had the fabric with it. And here is my finish. My goal was to have it completely finished. I'm going to put all 4 of these on this thing I found at Michael's with a magnet. Then I've measured it and it will fit. But I don't have it done, of course. But there it is. And of course, there's a crow. But of course, whenever I look at this, I'll remember the great Brewer run until the Dodgers. And that evil, evil, evil Manny Machado. So, on to December, which is this month. The only exciting thing cross-stitch-wise, other than coming back into the Flosstube world, is I finished my other at-work project, which was a Mania start, which was Bent Creek Flag of Stars. So there that is. I'm going to try and either finish it. I don't think it looks like a frame type finish, so I'm going to try doing it on barn wood or something. So that is my year. Obviously at an hour and 20 some minutes, I need to do another video. So at the end of this video, since I didn't want to bore everybody with the different little monthly exchanges I do, I'll be doing 2 videos back to back at the end of this video to see all of the finishes that I have done, and then hopefully on the other side of the screen to see what I have received. So the first one will be from the Facebook card and ATC group, and the second video will be from the Instagram ATC group. So if this is the first video you've watched, look for the other one, and if not, if this is the last one, Merry Christmas and see you in the other video.